Welcome to Verity House Inspired. In today's video, we are excited to share with you the transition from the winter garden to the spring garden, or as the Pixies named it, the Pixie Potager. Winter had not been a gracious guest at the little house where the Pixies live, and she had left her mark all over the garden. Despite her abrupt departure, practically overnight, the evidence of her long occupation was strewn with a careless hand from one end of the property to the other. The Pixies were not amused. The Pixies were dismayed with the rude realization that the only way past winter's mess was to simply go through it. It was the simple part they doubted. Tall boots and heavy gloves donned, brimmed hats pulled low against the sun, the taller occupants of the little house, and two pixies, went to battle against a persistent and invading force of weeds and vines. They cleared walkways and raked endless wheelbarrows full of fallen leaves, trimmed overgrown bushes and trees, among 1,000 other small and not-so-small tasks that were required to bring the potager back to the point of readiness for the spring planting. Determination and exhaustion vied for top billing in everyone's days, but at the end of the day, we were the victors and winter's presence had been all but erased. The wisdom of getting back to the earth had been doubted by the Pixies a few times over the course of the past few weeks of cleanup, but now as they stood back and looked at their handiwork and those of their siblings, they decided that this might be actually worth the effort, especially when I said it was time for us to take a trip to the garden center and pick out baby plants. It turns out if you use the phrase baby plants, or really baby anything, the pixie in question is immediately all in. Heirloom babies were chosen with care and in abundance. After all, the work to prepare the potager had been extensive and grueling as far as the Pixies were concerned. The selection of new plant babies was the reward for all of their efforts. pixelated perspective, the task of tucking the little plants into the earth was not work. The dark-haired pixie scooped generous amounts of worm casings into each gaping hole, and then the baby plant was nestled into the rich soil and their little roots covered fully. Meanwhile, the golden pixie concocted an enchanted blend of Fox Farm microbial brew and Grow Big for her watering can. This, she insisted, practically made her the little plant's doctor, which was a burden she did not take lightly. Straw was carefully arranged around leeks to help them with their blanching. Shallots and lettuce were planted, and beans were poked into the prepared earth in regimented lines. All were doused with the pixie's magical brew. The warrior pixie, incognito as Farmer Kalen, introduced pepper plants to their new home. It's a little-known fact that all citrus prefer an afternoon stroll. At least that's what ours told us. Finnegan helped out by removing all orange twine that threatened the delicate balance of the potager. Trenches were filled with worm casings and trellising bean seeds, though there was no proof that these beans would be anything like Jack's overzealous beans, as no bovine trading had taken place. The pixies, nevertheless, planted diligently. If magic was to be found, it would be found in these conscientiously planted beans. And when the potager finally reached capacity, we expanded. 5-gallon food-grade buckets with holes drilled in their bases and filled with organic soil and worm casings became homes to new starts. As Chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes so lyrically points out, to everything there is a season. However, Southeast Louisiana has a little trouble committing to a single season at a time, and will often change her mind 3 or 4 times in a 24-hour period. This day was no exception. And so just after spring had sprung, winter was back. For a moment. Despite winter's best efforts to be unpredictable, we had caught on to her duplicitous nature by now. Gallon water bottles with the bases removed acted as temporary cloches. We even rolled up flowering berry vines and put them in storage for the freeze. Every tarp and spare blanket was conscripted in the effort to save the newly planted potager. And in the end, we only lost 4 peppers, so it was worth it.
It's spring. Here we are in love with every blooming thing. Daffodils are daffodilin', whippoorwills are whippoorwillin'. It's spring. Get a foolish fancy when you look at me. Hummingbirds start humming in the lilac tree. Butterflies are butterflying, bumblebees are busy sighing. It's spring. There's a little shower almost every hour, but we won't complain. We don't mind the chatter of the pitter-patter. It's the laughter of the rain. It's spring. Mr. Cupid knows that once again he's king. Chickadees are chickadeeing, you and me, we're you and me, and it's spring.
Resilience is a lesson best learned from the beginning, and while learning to bend without breaking or stretching beyond what seems comfortable or what we've experienced in our past can often be uncomfortable and daunting, the result of doing hard things is worth it. Thank you for spending time with us. I'll see you next time.
It's spring.